Hello, good evening. You're watching The Final Whistle with me, Kenzie Benali.
And me, Steve Forbes.
Wow, we can breathe. What a game that was in the capital. It finishes Arsenal 3, Southampton 3. Dean Hammond and Adrian Kajumba are back with us to discuss that one. Certainly plenty to talk about. Dean, we'll come to you first. Wow, where to begin? What did you make of that?
A bit like you're saying there, Kenzie, just catching my breath. I'm emotionally drained, I think. Look, it was a brilliant performance from Southampton, something that maybe we didn't expect. I know we're all hopeful before the game and optimistic, but Arsenal is such a brilliant side. But I mean, what a start from Southampton. Brilliant counter-attacking football, set some traps defensively, pressed when they could, got that two-goal lead, and then Arsenal responded as you expected they would. Played really high intensity attacking football, got the goal back, and then I'm just sitting there thinking, just hold out till half time. Give the manager the opportunity to get into the dressing room and reorganise and take 5 minutes and take a breath, because the game was played at such a high pace. It was a brilliant first half of football. And then tactically, the manager got it spot on in to come out in the second half and change the shape, to take Alcaraz off, who was unbelievable in that first half, to go to the five and invite the pressure from Arsenal. But he did. He kind of nullified them, and they kind of ran out of ideas. And then again, to get that third goal, thinking, oh my word, we're actually going to win this now. This is going to be an unbelievable result. And then I think just that 4 or 5 minutes where Southampton just switched off a little bit, but you have to be fair to them. They must be absolutely shattered, because they'd put so much effort into it. They closed so many balls down. They'd moved across in the shape. They'd covered for each other. There was a real togetherness and a spirit. And then to hold on to the end for a point, I think, probably a fair result in the end. But I mean, what a game of football. So I think both teams will be disappointed. Both teams will be gutted. Both teams will be frustrated. But actually, in the end, I think both teams will be relieved. So it's a valuable point. Let's be honest. Before the game, we would have taken a point, but to be so close to a famous win that would have done so much for the team is the only setback. But I think the players can take so much from that, and hopefully that will kick them on for the remaining 7 games of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Adrian, I think that's the key, isn't it? The fact that we're feeling disappointment highlights just how many positives there were to take from that, because the belief really was creeping in there that we could take all 3 points from the league leaders tonight. But as Dean said there, on reflection, a point from this fixture is really promising.
I think so. I mean, you might not feel it right now when you conceded the two goals right at the end there to effectively have a win that was in your grasp, that sort of slipped through your fingers. But I think when you think back to maybe how a lot of people were probably feeling before the game, worried, worried about what Arsenal were going to do, maybe how big they might, how many goals they might score. To have given them the sort of game that Saints gave them tonight, to have been so close to winning, to have scored 3 goals at the Premier League leaders, to be that close to winning, to show that level of performance. I think there is a lot to take, maybe when the dust settles and the disappointment from how it finished sort of fades away.
Well, let's start to dissect the action. And Dean, 27 seconds, that's when the first goal went in for Southampton. A bit of a gift from Aaron Ramsdale, but Charlie Alcaraz still did brilliantly to find a bit of space and obviously apply the finish.
He did, Steve, and it was an incredible finish, really. But yeah, I think Ramsdale was just a little bit too calm and a little bit too composed, just trying to play between the lines in such a dangerous position. And Southampton kind of set a trap, really, with the two up front. They split, but almost aware that he was going to do that, to try and play into the midfield pass. So good anticipation from Alcaraz. He predicted the pass. But then from that moment, he took 1 or 2, maybe 3 quick touches. And it was the run of Theo Walcott as well, to run and take the defender away and kind of distract him, gave him that extra moment to have that next touch. But what a finish, to kind of pass it into that far corner with power was brilliant. And in such an early stage of the game was fantastic. And what a start. It really, really was. But Alcaraz has been very, very good. He's kind of played that role where I'm not sure whether he's playing up front, whether he's playing as a 10, whether he's playing across the the front line, but it seems to work for him. He really picks up some dangerous positions. For such a young man, he kind of understands the role really, really well. He's very, very disciplined. And I tell you what he can do, he can really finish. When he gets those opportunities, from the goals he scored this season for Southampton, he's very, very clinical. So if he can continue to do that, he's going to grow into a fantastic player. But it was so calm and composed. And what I liked was it was a brilliant run from Theo Walcott. And he might have been tempted to make that pass, but he didn't. He took the responsibility on. He was very, very confident in his ability. And he thought, I'm going to take this strike on and I'm going to score. It's a great start for Southampton.
Well, Alcaraz turned provider for that second goal, setting up Theo Walcott. Adrian, what did you make of that? And indeed, Alcaraz's overall performance today?
I think the second goal summed up sort of how well they started, how much they were on the front foot. I remember sort of watching the game at one point in that sort of first period and seeing how many players Southampton had in the Arsenal half. It was even sort of Romeo Lavia and James Ward-Prowse were pushed up as well, and then they had the players in front of them, sort of really putting pressure on Arsenal, giving them a headache, really trying to work out how to get the ball from their defensive area, sort of further up the pitch. The second goal, I think, is El Yunusi who intercepts Odegaard's pass, but Thomas Partey only just about got out of trouble just before that. And obviously Alcaraz drives forward and timed that pass perfectly in behind Gabriel to Theo Walcott. Great first-time finish. I think Alcaraz was excellent in that first half because obviously there was the goal line clearance from, I think it was Ben White's flicked header from the corner. And Alcaraz was sort of really important in the setup that Southampton had in the first half. Just being that sort of link player, helping them connect the two holding midfielders in Romeo Lavia and James Ward-Prowse to what was going on further forward and help the team get up the pitch and carry the ball forward. He was outstanding in that first half. He really was.
Arsenal did make it 2-1 soon after, but then there was quite an interesting moment with Jan Bednarek being subbed off on medical advice, Dean. He clearly wasn't happy at the decision, didn't want to leave the field of play, but ultimately did. What did you make of that incident?
I think it was the right decision, Steve, because there would have been a reason why they've come to that decision. But I can understand Bednarek as well. There's no player that would have wanted to come off it. On reflection, and you look at the replay, it looked really dangerous, and it looked like he could have really hurt himself. He kind of fell on the top part of his back, but then his neck as well. He was from such a high distance as well. I think it's the right decision because it's dangerous, and you have to, player welfare, player care. You have to think of. I know it's really important. It's an important game, but whether it looked like Arsenal were part of the decision as well, and obviously the Southampton staff, they would have normally in that situation, whether he'd been knocked unconscious or whatever happened, there'll be questions that he would have been asked, and he needs to answer them properly and get them correct. Otherwise, he'll be advised to substituted. Whether they looked at the replay and thought, okay, this could be really dangerous and we can't actually diagnose what's happened in this moment, and we need to look at it further, and we need to just take the action to take you out of the game just in case there is further damage that we can't tell at this moment. So I actually think it was the right decision. It took a long time, and as Bednarek went over to the bench, when he walked round, he spoke to the manager. The manager said something to him, but he had a part to play. He was on the bench for the rest of the game, and in those stoppage of plays when the players were over having drinks, he was coming over and speak to him. So you can see the leadership skills that he has, and you can see that he cares, and he's a winner. He really, really is. So it would have hurt him individually coming off. It really would have done. But I think it's the right decision. And it's part of modern football. You have to protect the players because players won't protect themselves. They really, really won't. They want to play at all costs, and rightly so. But I think it was a good decision by the medical staff in the end.
All right, well, let's take a look at social media now, hear what the fans are saying after that draw against Arsenal. Lots of pride comments coming in, really, understandably. Charlie Turner, though, says he doesn't know how to feel. I think that kind of sums up perhaps how you and I are feeling. Mixed emotions for sure. Rachel Ward says, feels like a loss, but let's take the point and fight to Bournemouth. Matthew says, look, I'm so proud of these boys. I'm disappointed that we didn't win, but what a point. We need to win every single game we have this season now. Lisa on Facebook, hello to you. She says, shame about the 3 points, but what an exciting game. It certainly was, Lisa. Richard Hall on YouTube has says, wow, what a game. So proud of our boys. Christine Farr says, well done, Saints. And we have a comment here from Alison on Facebook. She says, great effort, gutting to draw, but I'll take it. Come on, you Reds. Do keep those comments coming into us. Adrian, let's come to you then and talk about that tactical change that Ruben made at half-time. He, of course, opted to change to a back five. How did you assess that decision?
It's very interesting. Obviously, just now I spoke about the role Alcaraz was playing. I understand the decision to go to the back five in some ways because the fullbacks were both on yellow cards, and by bringing in the extra central defender, you just allow them to take up slightly different positions and know that they've got cover able to come out and support them. So maybe they don't have to be as rash as they might have been if they weren't booked, or in some of the situations they found themselves in the first half. I think maybe the issue they then had was keeping the ball in Arsenal's half, getting up the pitch. That was a bit difficult, and it was kind of concerning in some ways because it gave the initiative to Arsenal, and they just had waves and waves and loads of pressure. But what they weren't doing is anything with it, and then eventually, almost like when they had all the onus on them, and they didn't really make anything of it. And obviously then the third goal came and it felt like the game was over at that point. But for a period, it was a little bit worrying how much pressure Arsenal were having. But I think Southampton defended unbelievably well. The three centre-backs, that has to be said. Bella Kotchap all game. Obviously, Caleta-Car when he came on. And Bednarek was obviously very good before he went off. And Lienko then came on as well, played his part. So they defended really, really well. There was just that little worrying period maybe at the start of the second half when Arsenal had a lot of the ball, but I think Southampton kind of rode that out very, very well.
That tactical change certainly saw a lack of chances being created from open play from then on, Dean, and you thought that if Southampton were to extend their lead, it would come from a set piece, and so it proved.
Yeah, I thought it might be a 0-0, Steve, a set piece that we might nick it on the break, not a 2-1 up to make it 3-1. So I was pleasantly surprised. Let's put it that way. But no, it was a brilliant delivery from Prowse. We always expect that. Bella Kotcher started on Ramsdale and then came off him and came kind of unsighted in front of Rob Holding, got a really good flick, and Caleta-Car kind of drifted to the back post, and it looks like a really easy finish, but he's got a lot of time to see that, and he probably knows I should be scoring this, but he gets a really good connection on it. It gets his head over the ball and puts it into kind of an empty net, and Ramsdale just can't respond quick enough, can't react, can't get across a goal quick enough, and it was brilliant celebrations. But we all kind of knew the game wasn't won at 3-1. It was more comfortable. It really, really was. And for the next 10, 15 minutes, Southampton were brilliant. They really nullified Arsenal, didn't really create anything like Adrian's just touched on there. It was just that 5 minutes of madness, really, where Odegaard came into it, and he was finding those passes into the front man, into Jesus, who was getting hold of it, and then Arsenal could get runners off him, and it became very, very difficult for Southampton. But no, credit to Southampton. It looks like they really work on their set pieces in training. We had the one at Crystal Palace where Joe Aribo should have scored, which was brilliantly worked. This one looked like that was brilliantly worked, because when you've got a player like James Ward-Prowse, he can put it anywhere. So it's all down to the movement, the timing of the movement, and being aggressive in the box. And they're aggressive. They win the first contact and they win the second contact. So a 3-1, I was really, really smiling, but I must admit I was still a little bit nervous.
Well, yeah, we were as well, Dean. And Adrian, Dean just mentioned there that kind of few moments of madness from Arsenal, those few moments that broke Saints fans' hearts, really. Arsenal just displaying what top teams do and scoring twice in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, they didn't. And I think the first goal was just the sort of thing that can happen when you maybe although Arsenal weren't creating chances, as we said, Southampton were having to do a lot of defending, it's concentration and focus. And when it is sort of waves of pressure, as I said, it can just take one split second. And in that case, for the first goal, it's just letting Odegaard dip inside onto his favoured foot. Everyone knows Odegaard is left-footed, but when you've been having to focus and concentrate, as Southampton's players had to do for that game, it can only just take the tiniest little second maybe of focus or concentration drifting, and he's allowed to come inside onto his favoured foot and score. And I think that the equalising goal was almost, in some ways, also a result of Arsenal's pressure, because there's just so many bodies that Arsenal sort of had in Southampton's box and in and around it. I think Bella was quite unlucky actually because he seemed to have got himself in a really good position to react after Bazunu saved Reece Nelson's shot. I think he just slipped and then slip in and then trying to recover. He ends up being in a position where there's a gap between his legs basically for Saka to slip his shot through and then find the back of the net. So he was really, really unlucky because Southampton had the bodies in and around Bazunu to protect him for any loose ball that came back out. But I just feel that little slip proved really, really costly.
Very much so. Well, we've heard that there's a mixed emotions amongst the fan base. Dean, how do you feel about it? Do you think that's a point gained or two dropped? And what do you think the mood's going to be like in the dressing room?
Well, I think the mood will be disappointment, but I think the players can be really proud of themselves because of the performance they put in. To go to Arsenal and score 3 goals is no easy feat. It really isn't. But after being 3-1 up and working so hard, it's just a natural instinct to feel disappointed and gutted that you haven't got the result, and what it would have also meant in terms of coming off the bottom of the table, and what that would have meant to the players. But I think on reflection, tomorrow, the next day, as you come in next week to build up to the Bournemouth game, I think the players can look at it and think it's a point gained. It really, really is. I don't think you can look at it's 2 points dropped because you don't have the 3 points until the game is finished. They were winning during the game, but the game wasn't over. And to hold on to the end, Steve, it could have been worse. You know, at 3-3 with 5-6 minutes left, Arsenal hit the crossbar. There's a few moments where you think they might get a penalty. Does it fall to an Arsenal player in the box? Do they get the winner? The crowd was up. The noise was crazy. So the players have done really, really well to respond and not lose that game in the end, because I've been there, believe me, when winning game and then someone equalising in the 90th minute and then you end up losing the game, that will be real disappointment. But I think the players can be really, really proud of themselves because we're all disappointed after the Crystal Palace defeat. And we're all a little bit low after that. And they've responded tonight to be 2-0 up at Arsenal and Arsenal to get a goal back, to then go 3-1 up, to go 3-3 and not lose a game, I think is credit to them. But look, there will be some disappointment and the players will be shattered. They'll be absolutely shattered. So there won't be too much talking going on, believe me.
And as Martin Wilson has got in touch and commented on Facebook, he said, we didn't expect anything at the start. They played their hearts out and got a point. Let's take a look at a few more comments coming into us then, shall we? Owen said, we will stay up on YouTube. Jamie Banks is also with us on Facebook. He says, no way. 8 minutes added time for that second half. Ryan Ackland also with us tonight. Hello, good evening. He says we were unlucky tonight. Richard North says a draw was no good for either team. David on Facebook says it was an exciting game, Saints. Lakai Tizard, we will fight. Come on, you Reds. And we'll finish this with this one, from Paul Aitken on YouTube. He says, I will believe that we can stay up. So really positive and really nice actually to hear those comments coming in from the fans. The belief is still there. Adrian, we'll come to you then as we look ahead to Bournemouth on Thursday. We've been saying this for a long time, but that's another big and very important match that Southampton really need to win.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, Bournemouth have had a couple of good results recently just to help pull themselves clear of trouble, really. But I think what tonight does is a really timely boost. As I said, when the dust settles, hopefully they'll feel it that way. And I think the manager has to somehow bottle some of the best things that the players showed there tonight. And what they got to do, I was thinking at full time, some of the results Ruben Sellers has led the team to at Old Trafford, at Chelsea, tonight at Arsenal. Now they got to go and do that against one of the sides that are a bit closer to them. Obviously, it's always going to be a bit different when you go away to these bigger sides in terms of the possession you have, the way they attack, and potentially the opportunities you get on the counter-attack, because they just defend differently, and the onus and momentum and everything is different in those type of games. But somehow they got to be able to translate some of the things they've shown at Stamford Bridge, at Old Trafford, at the Emirates tonight into one of the games against one of their rivals, one of the teams closer to them, and really make it count in one of those games. And Bournemouth's obviously the next opportunity for that next week.
Yeah, that's right. And Dean, of course, you'll be with us at St Mary's Stadium for that one. How are you feeling ahead of that match?
Looking forward to it, Kenzie. It's like you said, it's a huge football match, and we have been saying that for a number of weeks now. But it really, really is, and it's it is a must win. It's a game that we have to win. There's no shying away from that. We have to win that game. But I will say, if the players can replicate that performance tonight for the remaining 6 games, they've got a really, really good chance of getting out of trouble. Because what they've shown tonight, not only to get a point, to compete against Arsenal, but to score 3 goals. And we haven't done that for a lot. I keep saying that. We did that against Tottenham, but we haven't done that many times this season. And that's really important because the teams at the bottom of the table, I'm just looking at, are not scoring goals. And obviously, if you're not scoring goals, you can't win games. And if you're not scoring many goals, you have to keep clean sheets. So if you go a goal down, it becomes even more difficult because you're not scoring 1, 2, 3 goals a game. So that will be a huge confidence boost tonight to give to those players so that we can score goals, we can compete, we can create chances. And defensively, those players were brilliant. So can they replicate that? You know, there's moments where you're in those one-on-one duels and you come out a winner, winning the ball. The moments where you have to make that sliding tackle to block the ball. It's almost easier to do it against the big teams because you raise your game. Can we do that against Bournemouth at home? So we know it's an important game, but if we can, you know, that's 4 points out of these 2 games. I think that would be a really, really good return.
Good stuff. Well, Dean, Adrian, thank you so much for your time this evening on Saints Live and on the final whistle. Dean, look forward to seeing you next week. Well, a relentless and enthralling night at the Emirates as Southampton gain a valuable point in their fight for Premier League survival and a 3-3 draw with Arsenal. Next up, it is Bournemouth at home at St Mary's on Thursday the 27th. It's a 7:45 kickoff, so we'll be with you again with a Saints Live from 6:30. Should be just enough time for the fingernails to grow back. We'll see you then.
Bye for now.